Hey, World Changers, welcome to your podcast. I'm Aniki Carroll and I travel the world with a sense of adventure and purpose, exploring, learning, having fun, and meeting remarkable individuals who are transforming their communities and beyond. Join me as we dive into the inspiring journeys of changemakers from every corner of the globe. Tune in weekly for stories that might just change your life, ignite your passion, and show you how ordinary people can create extraordinary impact. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on social media at World Changers PC and get ready to take off. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm really excited today to interview Praveen Gomez. Praveen serves at the moment with the World Without Orphans, an extraordinary nonprofit that's doing wonderful things in Sri Lanka. Praveen, welcome. You and I met in September in Seoul, of all places, even though you're from Sri Lanka. Would you like to introduce yourself properly? Just kind of give us a brief intro to your background and what led you up to what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Karen, for having me. Yeah, as you reported, I'm from Sri Lanka. I live in Colombo. Lived here all my life, even though I've traveled a bit and worked elsewhere. But I've been fortunate, I would say, to be born in Sri Lanka, despite all the difficult circumstances that country faced. And I've also been fortunate to be able to serve with the World Without Orphans. I've been here for the last 3 years. And I'm part of the global team that's serving, at least the team, serves in over 99 countries. It's a movement that deals with orphans, and we really believe that children need to be in family. And that's why this movement was set up, and it works with volunteers in various countries, amazing countries, who are just coming together to see this vision fulfilled and children being in family.
From experience, I know how hard it can be for a child not to have one or both parents. So for me, this is really intriguing. When you say a world without orphans, what exactly do you mean? What is the mission? Because clearly you cannot prevent people from dying. So yeah, what do you mean by that? Can you explain a little bit more about the mission?
That's a great question. So what we have found is that, okay, statistics show that there are about over 150 million orphans in the world. And these are, as you also mentioned, these are either children who have lost both parents or just one parent. But we are beginning to see and realize that majority of these children have as either a living parent or a living relative. And it is very unfortunate that they are torn apart from their family and placed in an orphanage, as we term as a care home now. Now, let me just clarify also that an orphanage or a care home wasn't always bad. You know, those days when nobody really looked after, when parents were or children were abandoned, it was these orphanages that really set up and took care of children. And we have to appreciate that they did a service that nobody would do. It wasn't that these children would go hungry on the street. But what that led to was, it led to people real thinking that giving a child the physical, providing for their physical needs, will sort all their problems. And so it was a home that would provide education, to provide the clothing and food for these children. But now when we talk to these children in orphanages, we really hear their heart where they say they long to be in family. That really breaks my heart. And I think that's what we're talking about, where yes, our interior needs are being fulfilled, but there is a longing inside you and I to do part of something, to know a family. And if they have a moving parent or living relative, why not first explore if they could be with them rather than just be torn from their families?
Yeah.
And it's generally, I would say that I think statistics show that over 50% of children who are in an orphanage, it's due to economic reasons. It's heartbreaking, right? Why, if for no part of theirs that they're there? But what is the community that you and I are in? What if we can rally around that family that is at risk of this family separation? What if you and I can be there to support this family and say, hey, we're going to come on board to support you, to keep your child with you? Whether it's providing financial support, or maybe just a meal for that family, or maybe, even pick and drop the child from the school and back. There are so many ways, practical ways the community around can do that. And our mission at World Without Orphans is really mobilizing the church to be that role, to stand in the gap. Uh, could the church family get on board? Because we see, even in Sri Lanka, we see that many of the orphanages have been started by churches, which by no means was a bad thing. It was a good thing. When nobody else took care of it, the church did step in. But now evidence suggests that there's a better alternative. Children, thriving families, and why not the church family get together and support a a family at risk?
Yeah. Kudos to all the amazing orphanages that have done great things throughout time. But I can imagine that there'll be some people listening now who, as soon as you mentioned church family or even orphanage, would have been triggered. Because let's face it, the church has been complicit in really perpetrating more harm than good in some cases for some of these orphans or people who've come through the church, or maybe orphanages that are run by the church. So can you just say, in view of that, how you ensure that some of these ills are avoided? What do you put in place to ensure that abuse isn't taking place and that children are actually better off in the long run?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So, like you mentioned, I don't think, I mean, we can point fingers at any orphanage or any church that really started an orphanage. As I said, we have to applaud them for being there, stand in the gap where nobody else did. But we also now see that families can take care of their children if they're given support. And governments are coming on board to say and put in safeguarding measures of foster care or kinship care for adoptions. And governments are coming on board with, like for example, UNICEF in Sri Lanka is supporting initiatives or mechanisms. Things are still rolling out. We don't have any foster care in place yet, but the plans are being put in place. I know countries like Australia are doing amazing work. So it's actually a partnership with different stakeholders. I don't think just the church can do it alone. But what we can do as a church is to start preparing families, preparing caregivers, putting the checks and balances in place within our church, safeguarding measures, whether it be our Sunday schools or whether it be for the future adoption or fostering process. But what if the church can actually take a lead, before the governments put pressure on, for example, in a developing country, governments can say, come and look at your Sunday school and say, are these measures in place? What if the church can start taking a step and leading in the process, putting these measures in, and they'll be ahead of the curve and be a role model within their community. So that's what we are saying. It's not, I don't think this issue can be solved alone. It's a very collaborating effort that needs to be done. And that's what World Without Orphans does. It's a movement. As I mentioned, it's not an organization. And excuse me, our goal is to call and equip national leaders to collaborate. That's what we do. Because we're not experts. We do not go there and say we know it all. So once we rally the group together, that's what we really do. There's tailoring. We bring people to that table and say, let's discuss and let's strategize how we're going to do it. Then we bring in the experts. And the expert does not mean who are at the forefront. The experts are the people who are on the field, who are doing great work. We share resources with each other. We really love what we call a learning community. Yeah, we would come together and share our learnings with each other. So we have national teams that would come together, and then they're connected to regional teams. And, for example, we have a South Asia Without Orphans team, and we learn from India, the big brother across borders, what they're doing. And they, it's vice versa. They learn from us. And so there's a lot of learning community that goes on. And that's where I think answering your question about the checks and balances and these uh, things in place, you learn what other countries are doing and say, hey, we never thought of that. We need to implement that too here. Yeah, that's how it works.
Wow. Listen, I'm all for best practice being adopted. I love it. And as you were speaking, I was reminded again that it does take a village to raise children. It's never ever been, the responsibility of just the people who birthed them. And it's wonderful that you're making a difference, or at least advocating for and bringing people together to make life better for orphans. So tell me, I know you've only been there for 3 years, but is there any particular story or case study or, instance that you'd like to highlight about the difference that this movement is making to the lives of orphans who access your services?
Well, okay, maybe there are two examples I can give. One is in Ukraine, with the war that's going on there, we are really seeing how parenting groups have been taken to the neighboring countries like in Poland and countries like that where these refugees moved to. And they have been strengthened to cope during this time. And that's making a huge difference. And we actually had the University of Oxford and people like that come on board to support with them, evaluating the programs. And the evidence is great. They are really seeing a positive change in the parents who have undergone these cope groups, as they term it, and they're able to be more resilient than what they were there. So there's a lot of positive change, evidence-based positive change we're seeing there. If I look at my home country, we don't have evidence-based, but I do have heard stories where, for example, this morning, I was with another organization that's wanted to work in Colombo. They're currently working in the Eastern Province, and they wanted to expand their services to the Western Province where Colombo is. And in that meeting, it was a meeting just for them to see how they can, what are the gaps and how they can really support. So it was a meeting with members of the Sri Lankan Without Orphans, and we came together to discuss this. But in that discussion, there was a sister, a Catholic sister, who was having a child who was part of an orphanage, a home, and there was a child who needed a school because this child. It's a long story, but this child needed access to a school, and the meeting was in one direction, but there was another member of the team that said, "Hey, I'm running a school and I can give that child access into our school." And just then they exchanged numbers. I saw them going out of the room, calling each other's officers. And when we finished the meeting after lunch, they said, it's done.
Wow.
Because I had access to school. And my heart was just so delighted and that's what we do. We bring the partners together to share their struggles, share their ideas. And we are seeing, it's making life to the difference to these children. It's one thing to do amazing high-level programs, policy changes and whatnot. But when you see lives of individual children changing, I'll tell you with something else. And just so delightful to know that a child has a future because of the work that's going on.
I love that. Love that. And you've now just moved us on to your homeland. I know you've been to quite a few countries, with your work in international development, but how did growing up in Sri Lanka, shape you as a person?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think many people know, or maybe they do know, that we went through a civil war for 30 years, almost 30 years. And for the most part of my life, I grew up in a country that knew nothing but war. So there was, in the city, it was bomb scares. We were famous for suicide bombers. And I don't want to go into details, but it was not pleasant. Um, and there were checkpoints, there were harassment going on. And, it's obviously the country is at war. And then the war ended, which was amazing. But then we also had a tsunami that hit us.
Yeah.
We went through a struggle again. And then more recently, a few years ago, we country went through a semi-economic crisis that we're still battling. The countries in debt. We're still battling that. And I tell you, it has been struggle after struggle in the countries. But as you said also, I've been to many countries, but there's nothing like home. I think what makes you resilient, just going through the struggles. And sometimes even you can get a bit cold by because the country has been through so much. But I tell you, there's nothing like our country. Recently, we were named, I think they said, one of the top 5 countries to that you need to visit in your lifetime. We were ranked top islands. So it's a beautiful country. But what has shaped me is, I think, being resilient too. And number 2, I would say being compassionate, because we really had to look out for your neighbor. I remember during the economic crisis a couple of years ago, we had to wait hours or even days for fuel in the petrol queues. And I remember one night I had kept my vehicle, I slept in the vehicle, or so I put the vehicle in the night, and it was the next morning that the Mauser was going to come. And my car broke down in the petrol queue. And amazing, the people around the car offered to push the car right up. It would have been kilometers away. They offered to push my car while I sit in the car to steer the wheel. They were going to push the car in this petrol queue just so that I would get gas. I didn't take them up the offer because the car really broke down. I couldn't move it. I had to just move it aside. But that's what I love about our country, that you just see a person need and you just go and meet them at their need.
I love that. That's just so heartwarming, isn't it? When you go to a place that's full of friendly people. And I also like that you're one of the top 5 places to visit. I'm really looking forward to coming over in just a few weeks, hopefully, less than 2 months. So yeah, can't wait to experience it for myself. But before then, can you just tell me what you consider to be the most unique aspects of Sri Lanka? And if somebody were to come, like I'm looking forward to coming to Colombo, what must I do? What must I not miss? What is it that's there, to experience?
Like, oh, wow. That's a big one. So, from what I've heard people say, that we are a very friendly nation. Do comment that the Sri Lankans are cheerful, smiling, and very hospitable. And I think they are very hospitable to foreigners and even to locals. I mean, if we travel around the country or anybody travels around, like I mentioned, somebody's in need, they are willing to help. But something to see within our country, because it's a tiny island, I think it just takes a matter of hours to get from the beaches, beautiful beaches, to the mountainous area, which the tea plantations, which is just stunning. We have a beautiful railway line that just going across the Nine Arches Bridge. And so I think it's very scenic. And that's what I would say is unique about the country, that you can see so much of diversity.
Yeah.
A few months ago, I took my kids and we went down south to the beaches. I think that's a place you need to go to. And suddenly we were swimming, and there was this giant turtles that was swimming with us.
Wow.
And it was like amazing. I mean, I've heard about it. Sadly, being a Sri Lankan, I've never experienced it until I saw it for myself, where these turtles just came up to you and, just wait away. They're harmless. So, yeah, of course, the kids got a bit scared. But when we move to the shore, they're still just coming close to you. So there's so much of diversity and things to see across the beaches and lovely people. You can go to houses and have a meal with them. I think very friendly people. So it's definitely a place to visit. The beaches are a must to see. We have year-round sun. Of course, these few days it has been quite horrible weather with rains, but I think generally should be good. And yeah, definitely something to see.
Goodness, you took the next question right out of my mouth. I was just going to ask, when is the best time for anybody who's listening and thinking, ooh, I must add this to my bucket list? When is the best time of the year to come?
And well, honestly, I don't have an answer for that. The women have been very chaotic. I've been having rains right throughout, so it's very difficult to predict. I would say Google it, check on each season. April is a very hot period.
Okay.
That time it's quite hot, so maybe avoid that. And coming towards the middle of the year would be really nice. Nice time to see. Yeah.
Okay, that's really helpful. Just before we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to share that you haven't been able to at the moment, or anything you're currently working on, anything you'd like to highlight?
We have 3 kids and 3 kids below 6 or 6 and below. So we have a 6 and a 4 and a 1 year. See, it's as much as we really enjoyed, it can get tough, obviously. And then what I love about the work that we do is we encourage, or we would really talk about parenting tips and getting parenting help. And something I've learned is that getting parenting or trained either formally or informally, getting help on parenting is, I think, a must for every parent.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it, you're able to learn from each other what works, what hasn't worked. And if not, you're just going to struggle with parenting. So I'm just so grateful for the different trainings I have received on parenting tips, whether it's to handle bullying in school or whether it's to handle a child being traumatized.
Yeah.
There are various techniques and skills that you can learn and help the child through. And so it's so important to get yourself equipped. It's one of the best.
I'm at the phase now where I'm very much looking forward to and enjoying grandchildren. But I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of listeners who might be interested in hearing one or two of your favorite parenting tips. Maybe you'd like to share?
You're right. Okay, so this is the parenting tip that I learned was that there are different seasons in life for the child.
Yeah.
There are impact years, there are mother impact years, father impact years, and peer impact years. And I was told that the peer impact years, when the child is a teenager, before the child reaches that age, that you need to get to know that your children's friends so that you can influence them so that before they influence your kids.
Interesting.
And I remember that. And my one kid was getting bullied in school. And I didn't know how to handle it. I knew I had to talk to the parent, but I didn't want to just suddenly call up a parent and randomly say, I'm so-and-so's father, and I got your number, and your child is bullying my child. But it just so happened, I thank God for that I saw this father outside the school picking up the kids. And I just struck up conversation with him and said, hey, how about we take our kids for a soccer match, a football match? And he was so excited. He said, why don't we do that? And because there was a match coming up, I agreed to get the tickets. And unfortunately, I couldn't get the tickets. I couldn't get my hands on the tickets. So we didn't end up going. But just the fact that they knew that my son was, interested to go on this, to watch this match with the other boy, their bullying stopped immediately. The next day, there was no more bullying. This child became such good friends with my son. And now we go on play dates together. And I'm able to influence that child. So we've been going to the park now together with the parents. And so we have this small clique now. as a result of that, and now we've expanded more than just that friend. We have invited others. And now it's this entire group of fathers, actually, that are mothers as well, who are coming in with their children on a Saturday morning on and off, where we're able to now influence each other's children. And now I know if bullying does happen, I can easily, by these children who come there, I can just call the father and say, hey, there's something that is happening, shall we keep an eye on this? And, I have such a great relationship with these parents now that it's no longer awkward for me to approach a topic. And vice versa, if my son is bullying them, they can approach as well. So yes, I love the fact that these parent tech years and approaching their children, the children's friends with hope, the peers can impact them.
Gosh, that's wonderful. I really, really like that. It's just, influencing each other for good is really the mark of transformational leadership. I love it. Thank you so much, Praveen. I wish we could carry on and on and on, but our time is now very quickly coming to a close. I know that there'll be lots of people who may be stuck in a place where, they want to do more to make a positive impact in their community, or maybe even support those around the world who are doing that. Is there something you'd like to say to somebody, who's not sure where to start or how to go about it? Is there one thing that you can say, that keeps you motivated, gets you out of bed, or that you think might help somebody else?
It sounds very basic, and I think we just keep hearing them. I think just starting somewhere. Don't wait for this big programs to do it. Just start somewhere. You can just, if you see a need, if you feel a calling towards something, just start take a baby step towards it. I think that's where it is. And how I got into serving at World Without Orphans on working here was because I first volunteered my time with them. I saw the need, I saw an opportunity, I just went forward and did it. And just that one thing led to another, where now I'm doing it full time. As I would say, just start somewhere. The world is full of needs. There's so many of things that you and I can do, which doesn't need big funding or so much of time. You can do it very simply, whereas in a small way, which will make a great difference in somebody.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Praveen. Looking forward to connecting when I'm out in Colombo, and hopefully we'll have more conversations that are so inspiring like this. Thanks for joining us, and all the best with the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of World Changes podcast. I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am by today's conversation. Remember, the power to create change is within each of us. If you were inspired by today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. It really helps to spread the word and inspire even more world changes. And be sure to follow us on social media at World Changes PC for updates, behind the scenes content, and more inspiring stories. Until next time, keep exploring, keep making a difference, and remember, you can be a world changer.
The World Changes podcast is produced by Humanize Live and presented by Amiki Carroll. Visit theavocadofoundation.org to find out more about how the Avocado Foundation is tackling global inequality through education, stewardship, and financial literacy.